Guten Tag, my family. It is your girl T, aka the nappy-headed jojoba, back with another tea talk. If you've been following me throughout Vlogmas, you know that every Tuesday I've been doing tea talks where I talk about just something that has been on my mind. In my previous tea talk, we talked about a surprising cause of yeast infections, so shout out to anyone and everyone who commented, participated in the discussion, or simply liked or watched the video. There was so much wonderful information being shared beyond what I spoke about in the video because I was speaking specifically about one surprising cause of yeast infections, but you guys were chiming in with other surprising causes, other ways to help prevent getting yeast infections, all sorts of stuff. So thank you for that. As this is another Tea Talk X Lady Business hybrid piece of content, I definitely want to make sure that trend continues and we keep the discussion going under today's video, because today we are talking about women and how our roles are seen based on societal norms and really, in my opinion, archaic modes of thinking. You guys have already seen the title. I don't want kids. I've never wanted kids. I didn't like kids when I was a kid. As a woman, despite the fact that it is almost 2019, there's still an assumption that all women are supposed to or should want to get married, have kids. But even as a child, that was never something that was aspirational for me. That was never something that I fantasized about. That was never something that I desired. And the entire time I was growing up, once I came to that realization that, I don't think that's for me. I don't really have any interest in having kids. And I realized this at a young age because internally I've always been an 85-year-old crotchety old man. And of course, realizing that at such a young age, when I was in my tweens and teens and so forth, the overwhelming response was always, oh, you'll change your mind. Now that I'm at the end of my life and mere moments away from death's sweet release, that hasn't changed at all. Simply because I'm still within my childbearing years, whenever I express that I'm not interested in having children, the response is typically like, you'll probably change your mind, or are you sure? And quite frankly, that response, in my opinion, is extremely dismissive and disrespectful. I'm not 15 years old. I'm not 20 years old. I think I would know by now if I were going to change my mind. Equally invasive is the fact that people constantly want to ask why when I express that I don't want to have children. And quite frankly, it isn't anyone's business. I don't owe anyone any explanation as to why I don't want kids. Nonetheless, the answer is pretty simple. I don't want kids because I don't like them. I simply don't have that maternal urge to reproduce. Even though I've always felt certain and confident in my decision on an internal level, I still to this day will struggle with the external pressures just from society making me feel like I'm somehow less of a woman because I don't want to reproduce. Then the logical part of my mind reminds me, just because I don't want babies doesn't make me any less of a woman. It seems to me that I've got a lot of friends in my life who are also women who also don't particularly have any interest in having kids. I don't know if it's an evolutionary shift where that urge is subsiding because our planet is dying, or if it's simply that we are at a crossroads on a societal level where we're actually able to express these things with less judgment than before, albeit not without judgment entirely. I know I've chatted with a few of you in the comments on previous Lady Business videos where we've talked a little bit about not wanting kids and just that whole struggle. Because again, it's not a struggle for me on a one-on-one basis. It's a struggle when I have to deal with other people putting their issues on me. And it's funny because people will often think they're complimenting me when they say things like, but you're the type of person who really should have kids. I am painfully aware of how many utter dipshits are pooping out babies on a daily basis, but that also is not within my control, and me having a baby doesn't somehow cancel that out. As far as marriage goes, that also is not an aspirational thing for me, never has been. I never fantasized about some huge wedding and a giant white dress, even when I was a little girl. To be perfectly candid, growing up, the only thing I ever really wanted to do was to get paid to write dick jokes. And I've done it. My aspirations in life have always been professional, aside from wanting to have a house with a yard so I can have a lot of dogs. And it doesn't make me any less of a woman or any less feminine simply because my top priority isn't finding a husband or starting a family. I have the utmost respect and admiration for women who do that because, quite frankly, childbirth is terrifying. Not to mention, you've made a person now and you have to raise that person and make sure that he or she isn't going to be an asshole. It's a lot of pressure. I just don't think there's anything wrong with respecting women who choose to do that, but not wanting that for yourself. I'm a minority within a minority within a minority, you know? I'm a woman who's black, who doesn't want kids. And as far as marriage goes, you know, if I ever met a guy where I felt like I wanted to do that, I'm not completely closed off to the idea. I'm just like, I'm never getting married. It's just not something that I'm pressed about, and it's certainly not something that I dream about. Typically within about 90 minutes, I'm like, okay, you're free to go. I've already called you an Uber. Not wanting kids is, of course, a massive factor in my dating life as well. I mean, I generally let this be known up front because if the guy wants kids, it's a deal breaker. I'm not interested in wasting his time, and I'm definitely not interested in wasting my time. More than once, I've seen looking for the mother of my children on a bio, and I swiped left so hard my phone flew across the fucking room. In sum, no, I don't want kids. I'm not going to change my mind, and please respect that. I'm anticipating that today's Tea Talk X-Lady business is going to get a lot of thumbs down compared to previous ones, simply because people will take my decisions about my uterus personally. So if you are one of my ride or dies and you see that happening, do not fret. Even a thumbs down counts as engagement, which helps me in the algorithm, so haters literally make me strong. And be sure to chime in the comments with your thoughts about women's roles in society as having to have children versus perhaps not wanting children. Maybe you changed your mind one way or the other about whether you wanted children, or maybe you're like me and you've never wanted them and you stand firm in that choice. Thank you so much for watching today's Tea Talk, and I will see you guys tomorrow for another Vlogmas video. Bye-bye.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm gonna tell you that now.